What happens when a careless party confession becomes a viral video? How could one night of laughter, drinks, and a game of truth or dare destroy a marriage, spark public humiliation, and end in a courtroom confrontation? I'm Elara Wynn, and it started as a joke that got out of control. A few drinks, a circle of friends, and a game of truth or dare that should have stayed harmless. When someone dared me to tell the most shocking thing I'd ever done, I laughed and said the first thing that came to mind, that I'd slept with my ex once, after getting married. I said it like it was funny, like I was being honest and brave, not cruel. Everyone howled with laughter. Someone clapped. Darren, my ex, grinned from across the room. And for a few seconds, I felt admired, even powerful. What I didn't realize was that Marla, my coworker, had her phone pointed right at me, recording the whole thing. She posted it later with the caption, "When honesty goes too far." The clip spread faster than I could blink. By morning, people were tagging me, commenting, laughing. At first, I tried to convince myself it didn't matter, that it was just another viral joke. But then I saw Owen's face at breakfast, pale and still, his phone lying between us, playing the video on repeat. He didn't shout, he didn't even ask. He just looked at me, like he was seeing the truth for the first time. I told him it was a joke, that everyone exaggerated during games, that people love to twist words. But deep down, I knew he believed me, and worse, he believed I didn't even regret it. That silence of his became unbearable. I told myself he'd get over it, that men always forgave once things calmed down. I didn't see the quiet calculation behind his eyes, the way he started saving messages, printing pages, writing notes. I thought his stillness was weakness. I thought I'd already survived the worst part when the video went viral. I didn't know the real reckoning was still coming, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't break, just waits. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The morning after the party, I woke up to the kind of headache that made every sound feel personal. My phone was blinking on the nightstand, buzzing with messages from people I barely remembered talking to. The first thing I saw when I unlocked it was the video. Me, sitting in that circle, drink in hand, laughing too loudly, saying words that were never meant to survive the night. I watched myself on the screen confessing that I'd slept with Darren after getting married, saying it like it was some brave truth instead of a knife to the heart of my own life. The room in the video erupted in laughter, and I laughed with them, eyes bright, proud of my honesty. I didn't notice the caption underneath until I scrolled, "When honesty goes too far." My stomach dropped. Comments were piling up, people I barely knew tagging others, writing things like, "No wonder her husband's so quiet and guess the accountant couldn't keep her entertained." I sat frozen, heart pounding, trying to tell myself it didn't matter. People overreact online. It would blow over. But when I turned, the other side of the bed was empty. Noah wasn't in the kitchen either, just his mug, still warm, and his phone missing from its charger. I called his name, half expecting him to walk in with that soft patience he always had. Nothing. When I checked the front door, I saw the folded note on the shoe rack, "Work early." Just 2 words, neat handwriting, no emotion. I crumpled it, furious at how calm he could be when I was unraveling. I texted him, asking if he'd seen the video. He didn't answer. At the office, I tried to pretend everything was fine. My coworkers' laughter died when I entered the break room. One of them muttered something about viral fame, and another smirked. Marla avoided my eyes completely, tapping on her phone like her life depended on it. I wanted to grab it, to make her delete everything, but instead, I smiled and poured coffee, acting like I didn't care. That's what you do when you're being watched. You act like the scene belongs to you. By noon, I'd convinced myself it was just gossip. People forget fast. When I came home that evening, Noah was sitting at the dining table. He didn't look angry. He didn't even look surprised. His phone was beside him. The video paused on my face mid-laugh. He asked if it was true. I said it was a joke. He asked again, quiet, measured. I said he was overreacting, that everyone knew truth or dare didn't count as real confessions. He nodded once, like he was memorizing my excuse, then stood and walked to the bedroom. I followed him, saying he couldn't just ignore me. He said he wasn't ignoring me. He was listening. I didn't understand what that meant. Later, while I scrolled through the endless comments, I saw new shares, people cutting clips, adding captions, tagging me. One said, "When you marry the wrong woman." Another said, "Imagine your accountant husband seeing this." My cheeks burned. I opened Marla's profile and saw the video had over 10,000 views. My phone buzzed with messages, some from friends defending me, most just curious. Darren texted too. "Guess we're famous." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Noah came out from the guest room holding his laptop. He asked if I wanted to talk. I told him not now. He said quietly that he was trying to understand what kind of person turns betrayal into entertainment. I snapped that he was too sensitive, that people admired honesty. He didn't reply. He just sat, typing something slowly, occasionally glancing at me. I asked what he was doing. He said, "Making notes." I laughed bitterly. "You think this is homework?" He said, "No, it's record keeping." That night I couldn't sleep. The quiet between us was unbearable. I kept checking my phone, waiting for something, an apology, a call, a chance to fix it. Instead, new comments appeared, screenshots of me with mocking captions. Every time I refreshed, my heart sank further. Around 3 a.m, I walked into the living room. Noah's laptop was open on the table. On the screen, a folder labeled Household sat beside another named Records. I didn't open them. I didn't have to. The neatness of his world terrified me. In the morning, he handed me coffee like nothing had happened. When I said I was sorry people were making a big deal, he said it wasn't people, it was choices. I told him he sounded like a teacher. He said maybe someone needed to start teaching consequences. I rolled my eyes, said he was making drama where there wasn't any. He only smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides more than it shows. Before leaving for work, he set his phone face down on the counter. I noticed a small calendar notification light up before the screen went dark again. Downtown 1305. The word hung in my mind all day, but I brushed it off. Probably some boring client meeting. I was the one dealing with chaos. He didn't get to act mysterious. That evening, I called Marla. I told her to delete the video. She said it was too late, that once things go viral, they belong to everyone. I told her she'd ruined my marriage. She said I'd ruined it myself. I hung up, shaking, and poured a drink. Noah came home late, calm as ever. He asked if I'd eaten. I said I wasn't hungry. He nodded, opened his folder, and started writing again. When he finally looked up, his voice was soft. He said he didn't need to argue, he just needed clarity. I asked what that meant. He said, "You'll see." Then he turned off the light and went to bed, leaving me sitting alone in the half-dark, phone buzzing with more notifications. The faint click of the front door locking from the inside as a new message lights her screen. The next few days blurred together in that strange way life does when you're waiting for someone to yell and they never do. I woke up every morning expecting Noah to explode, to demand explanations, to throw the video in my face. But he didn't. He was polite, composed, almost gentle. That made it worse. He left early, came home late, kept his phone face down, and spoke only when necessary. I told myself he was punishing me with silence. I told myself I could outlast it. At work, things weren't any better. Marla barely spoke to me, though I could feel her guilt from across the office. People whispered in the break room, and I caught my name more than once. always followed by laughter cut short when I walked in. My manager asked for a quick word about professionalism and company image. I smiled, apologized, promised to stay focused. But even he couldn't hide the fact that he'd seen the video. My face was everywhere. That night, when I got home, Noah was in the kitchen helping Grace with her homework. She looked up and said the kids at school had been talking about Mommy's funny video. My stomach dropped. I asked her what she meant. She said one of her classmates' moms showed it to everyone at pickup, saying Mommy was brave for telling the truth. I forced a smile, told her not to believe everything people said online. Noah said nothing, just helped her finish her drawing. When she went to bed, he asked quietly if I understood how far the video had spread. I said he was exaggerating, that it was just gossip. He said it wasn't gossip when it reached our daughter's school. I told him he was being dramatic, that people would move on. He nodded like he was making a note in his head and said he hoped I was right. The next morning, I saw a new version of the clip online. Someone had edited it with background music, turning it into a meme. The caption read, "When you overshare and ruin your life in one sentence." It already had thousands of likes. I threw my phone onto the couch, furious, humiliated, but still pretending it wasn't my fault. I wanted to call Marla again, but I couldn't stand the thought of giving her the satisfaction. Instead, I texted Darren. He replied right away, said he'd seen the clip too, and thought it was hilarious. He told me not to take it so seriously, that people loved scandal. I said he didn't understand, that I was the one people were laughing at. He sent back a winking emoji and told me I was famous now. I wanted to scream. At work, my manager avoided eye contact. A few coworkers smiled too brightly, asking how I was holding up. Marla still hadn't deleted the post. I overheard 2 interns whispering that Noah must be humiliated, that maybe I'd done him a favor by being honest. I pretended to take a call and walked out before I started shaking. In the hallway, I saw Noah's name flash on my phone. I almost didn't answer. When I did, his voice was calm, like always. He said Grace had a fever, and he'd already called the doctor. I said I'd come home right away. He said not to rush, he had it handled. That word again, handled. When I got home, the house smelled like soup. Grace was asleep on the couch, and Noah sat beside her, laptop open. I asked if she was okay. He said yes, just a small cold. I thanked him for taking care of it. He said, "Someone had to." I bristled, said he didn't have to sound like I was neglectful. He said he wasn't accusing, just observing. I told him I didn't deserve this cold judgment. He asked if I thought he deserved public humiliation. I snapped that no one forced him to watch the video, that he was choosing to be a victim. He looked at me, silent, eyes steady, and said quietly, "You're right. Choice matters." Then he closed the laptop and went upstairs. That night, I couldn't stop checking my notifications. The video had reached 20,000 views. Some people were tagging Owen's workplace in the comments. A few even made jokes about accountants and cheating wives. I wanted to hide. I turned my phone face down and went to the bedroom, but Noah wasn't there. The bed was made perfectly, his pillow gone. I found him in the guest room, already asleep. I stood there for a while, waiting for him to notice me. He didn't. The next day, Marla finally deleted the original post, but copies kept popping up. Someone had uploaded it to a compilation channel on social media. My coworkers started pretending they hadn't seen it, which somehow felt worse. When I told Noah that Marla had taken it down, he said it wouldn't change anything. "The internet remembers," he said. I told him he was acting like a lawyer, not a husband. He said quietly, "Maybe both are needed now." I rolled my eyes, said he loved to sound superior. He didn't argue. He never did anymore. Later that evening, while I was washing dishes, I noticed him standing by the doorway, phone in hand. I asked what he wanted. He said he was just setting reminders. His screen glowed faintly, and I caught a glimpse of a calendar entry again. Downtown 1305. The same one as before. I asked what it was for. He said simply, "Meetings." I laughed. "You don't even like going downtown?" He shrugged. "I'm learning to like it." That answer made no sense, but he said it in that calm tone that always made me feel like the one losing control. Before bed, I told him I was sorry if the video embarrassed him. He said he wasn't embarrassed anymore. "You get used to seeing your name next to lies," he said. I told him he was twisting things. He said maybe, but sometimes twisting straightens what was bent too long. I didn't even know what that meant. He went to the guest room again without another word. When I finally lay down, I heard the faint sound of a printer from somewhere in the house, low and steady, like a heartbeat behind the walls. I almost got up to ask what he was printing, but stopped myself. I didn't want to know. I told myself he was journaling, organizing his life like he always did. The noise stopped a few minutes later, followed by the soft click of a door closing. A message notification lights the dark room. Marla's text preview reads, "You might want to check the comments again." By Monday, the comments had stopped feeling like words and started feeling like bruises I couldn't cover. Every time I opened my phone, there was something new. Screenshots, edited clips, people using my laugh as a meme. I'd tried ignoring it, tried pretending it wasn't real, but pretending doesn't stop 1,000 strangers from pointing at your life. Noah moved around the house like a ghost, quiet, composed, and careful not to touch me. The distance between us had become an entire world. I thought silence meant I still had time, that maybe he was just processing. But silence, I was learning, was its own kind of sentence. At the office, the air was heavy. People looked at me with that mix of curiosity and pity, reserved for someone whose downfall had become public entertainment. Marla wasn't at her desk, and for a moment I felt relief. Then I saw her story update, a picture of a coffee cup with the caption, "Some truths hit harder than caffeine." I wanted to scream. Instead, I forced a laugh when my coworker asked if I'd seen the remix someone made. The video now had auto-tuned versions of my voice, set to music, thousands of views. The worst part, I still couldn't tell myself it was my fault. I told everyone it was exaggerated, that I hadn't really done anything wrong, that people online were just cruel. The lie came so easily, I started to believe it again. That evening, Noah came home early. He sat across from me at the table, looking calm but exhausted. He asked if I'd seen the latest post. I said yes, rolling my eyes, pretending it didn't bother me. He said he'd gotten messages from clients asking if it was real. I told him to tell them it was fake, that people love drama. He said, "You said it yourself. On camera." I told him context mattered, that I was just playing a game. He said games stop being fun when they hurt real people. I told him to stop moralizing. He said he wasn't moralizing, just observing consequences. That word again. I threw up my hands, said I couldn't live with someone who acted like a judge. He said quietly, "Then maybe you shouldn't have given the jury a show." I didn't answer. I just went upstairs and slammed the door. The next morning, I found him gone again. Grace was eating cereal, watching cartoons, oblivious. I tried to act normal, but every sound in the house felt wrong. His laptop was missing from the desk. In its place was a single notebook with a pen laid neatly across it. I shouldn't have, but I opened it. Most of the pages were empty except for one near the back. It wasn't words, just a list. Dates, file names, links, timestamps. My name was at the top. My throat tightened. I told myself he was just organizing evidence for some emotional closure, not something serious. But a small, sharp part of me knew better. At lunch, I met Marla in the cafe across from work. She looked guilty, but not enough. I told her she had ruined my life. She said she didn't mean to, that it had been funny at first, that no one expected it to blow up. I said she should have deleted it sooner. She said I should have thought before speaking. I almost slapped her, But instead, I smiled that same fake smile I'd used 1,000 times. She asked if Noah had forgiven me yet. I said he would. He always did. But as I said it, even I didn't believe it. That night, Noah was home before me, sitting in the living room with his laptop. Grace was already asleep. He looked up when I entered, calm as ever. I told him I'd met Marla, that she'd deleted everything. He said it didn't matter. "The damage is done," he said almost kindly. I asked if he was planning to leave. He said leaving wasn't his style. "You don't fix a mess by walking away," he said. "You fix it by showing the truth." I told him I didn't understand what that meant. He said I would. Then he stood up, walked past me, and went to the guest room again. Later that night, I saw my phone light up. New mentions, new tags. Someone had uploaded a clip of Noah leaving work, with the caption, "The betrayed husband who said nothing." People were calling him a saint, a fool, a ghost. I couldn't decide which was worse. I scrolled through the comments, half in anger, half in shame, until my screen went black. When I looked up, the house was silent. Then I heard it again. That soft, mechanical hum from his study, the printer at work. Pages sliding out one by one. I walked toward the door, hesitated, then turned away. I didn't want to see what he was printing. The next day, my sister called. She said people were messaging her about the video, asking if it was real. I said it wasn't anyone's business. She said I was making it everyone's business by staying online. She told me to apologize publicly. I said I had nothing to apologize for. She said maybe that was why I kept losing everything. I hung up. When I got home, Noah was in the backyard, trimming the hedge with that same quiet precision he gave to everything. I stood there, watching him, trying to find the man I used to know. But there was something different about him now. He wasn't angry. He was resolved. That night, I found an email on our shared account. It was from a law firm. The subject line said, "Confidential Draft Inquiry." My heart skipped. When I opened it, the body was blank except for a note that read, "Follow-up meeting scheduled, downtown 13:05. I froze, hands shaking. Before I could process, I heard footsteps behind me. Noah stood in the doorway, calm, unreadable. I asked what the email was. He said, "Just information." I said I'd seen it, that he didn't need to hide things. He said, "I'm not hiding. I'm documenting." Then he turned and walked away, leaving the air heavy with things unspoken. The faint buzz of his phone on the counter, screen lighting up with a reminder titled, "Downtown Meeting Confirmed." It took less than a week for the story to stop being gossip and become reputation. The difference is that gossip fades, reputation lingers like a stain. Everywhere I went, people seemed to know me before I spoke. At the grocery store, 2 women in line looked up from their phones, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. At Grace's school, one of the teachers smiled politely, too politely, the kind of smile that hides discomfort. Even my sister, who used to defend me no matter what, sounded tired on the phone. She said people were asking her if the rumors were true. I said they weren't rumors. They were jokes taken too seriously. She told me that's what people always say when they've lost control of their own story. That evening, Noah came home early, which had become rare. I almost smiled until I noticed the way he moved. Quiet, deliberate, detached. He didn't ask about dinner or my day. He just took off his jacket, folded it over a chair, and started sorting through mail. I asked if something was wrong. He said no, but his tone told me everything was. Then, as if remembering something, he mentioned that his mother wanted to talk to me. My heart sank. Leah had been silent since the video, which was worse than anger. I said maybe another day. He said she was at the park now, waiting. There was no escaping that. I found Leah sitting on a bench near the playground, watching Grace draw shapes in the sand. She looked older than I remembered, smaller somehow. I sat beside her, pretending confidence. She didn't look at me right away. When she finally did, her eyes were kind but sharp. She said she wasn't here to argue. She said she only wanted to understand how something private became entertainment. I said it wasn't my fault people posted things. She said maybe not, but I'd given them something to post. I told her she was judging me without knowing the full story. She said the full story was already online. I laughed bitterly and said people love to exaggerate. She sighed, said she wasn't angry, just sad, for Noah, for Grace, for me. I told her not to make it sound tragic, that families survived worse. She said families survived pain, not humiliation. Then she stood, brushed off her coat, and told me quietly that Noah didn't deserve to be a character in someone else's show. When she walked away, I felt heat rising in my chest, anger mixed with shame. Grace ran up, smiling, holding a small drawing she made for both of us. I forced a smile, hugged her, and said we'd go home. That night, I tried to act normal. Made dinner, turned on music, pretended the house wasn't falling apart. Noah didn't touch the food. He thanked me, said he'd eaten already. I asked if he talked to his mother. He said yes. I asked what she said. He said, she thinks I should protect myself. I told him he didn't need protection from me. He said quietly, people protect themselves from storms, not because storms mean harm, but because storms destroy anyway. I told him that was poetic and pointless. He said it wasn't meant to be poetry. Later, I found him in the guest room again, typing something. I asked what he was working on. He said he was collecting statements. I laughed, said he was treating our marriage like a crime scene. He said calmly, maybe it is one. That made me furious. I accused him of loving drama, of wanting people to pity him. He said pity wasn't what he wanted. He wanted distance. I told him that if he was planning to leave, he should just say it. He said he wasn't leaving yet, but he was learning how to stand somewhere safe. The next day, my sister came over, uninvited. She looked uncomfortable, said she'd seen new edits of the video circulating, clips where my face was blurred but my voice wasn't. She said people were calling me the confession wife. I told her to stop reading comments. She said she wasn't reading. People were sending them. She told me I needed to go offline, to post an apology, to stop pretending everything was fine. I said apologizing would make me look guilty. She said maybe I already did. That night, the tension in the house was unbearable. Noah ate in silence. Grace hummed to herself, and I sat scrolling through my phone like a woman watching her own downfall on replay. When I tried to start a conversation, he interrupted, saying he'd be out the next morning for a meeting. I asked where. He said, downtown. I asked again, and he repeated it with a tone that ended the discussion. The next morning, he left early, and the house felt too quiet. Grace's laughter from the other room made it worse, life continuing despite everything. Around noon, my sister texted me a screenshot. Someone had tagged Noah's workplace in the video again, adding cruel captions about his forgiving nature. I panicked, called him, no answer. Then I noticed a notification on our shared account, an unread email from an unknown address. It said, "We acknowledge receipt of your initial materials. A formal complaint will be reviewed." My pulse spiked. I didn't understand what it meant, but it sounded official. That evening, Noah came home calm, almost kind. He asked if I was okay. I said no, that I couldn't take the online comments anymore. He said he knew, that maybe it was time to take a step back. I thought he meant emotionally. He meant legally. Before bed, he stood in the doorway and said quietly, "I'm done trying to fix this the wrong way. I'll handle it properly." Then he turned off the light. I lay awake for hours, trying to decode what properly meant, listening for any sound. Footsteps, phone calls, printers. All I heard was the slow hum of the refrigerator and the faint sound of Grace's breathing through the wall. A soft knock echoes through the dark house as a phone vibrates on the table. Unknown number flashing again. The next morning began with quiet that felt too deliberate. Noah had already left, but the kitchen smelled faintly of his coffee. Grace's backpack was packed neatly on the counter with a note in his handwriting, "School pickup at 4." I stared at the words longer than necessary, trying to read between the lines. There was nothing there, just instructions, calm and careful, like everything he'd been doing lately. At work, things were worse. My manager called me into his office, said they'd received complaints from clients about inappropriate public conduct. I wanted to shout that it was my personal life, not theirs, but he kept his tone professional, detached, as if I were just another problem on his checklist. He said it would be best if I took a few days off. To let things cool down, he said. I told him things were fine, that people were exaggerating. He smiled politely, said it wasn't a discussion. Walking out of his office felt like walking off a cliff I hadn't realized I'd been standing on. Marla avoided me entirely now. I passed her desk and saw her screen reflected in the glass. My face again, frozen mid-laugh, on some gossip site headline. I wanted to rip the monitor from the wall. Instead, I went to the restroom, locked myself in a stall, and cried silently until the tears stopped meaning anything. When I got home, Noah was sitting on the couch, sorting through a stack of papers. I asked if he'd heard from anyone about the video. He said yes, but that he wasn't worried. I told him I was losing everything because of a stupid game. He said quietly, "Then maybe you shouldn't have played." His calmness cut deeper than any argument could. I told him he sounded like he'd already given up. He said, "I haven't given up. I've accepted the truth." I demanded to know what that meant, but he only said, "It means I'm not pretending anymore." Grace ran into the room holding a drawing she'd made of the three of us. She asked why Daddy had moved his things into the guest room. I froze. Noah told her gently that sometimes grown-ups need space. She nodded, confused, then asked if we were mad at each other. I said no too quickly. After she went to bed, I told him that he shouldn't say things like that in front of her. He said, "I didn't say anything untrue." I told him he was turning this into a spectacle. He said he was doing the opposite, ending one. Later, I noticed something new, a locked drawer in his desk. I hadn't seen it before. I tried the handle. It didn't move. My pulse quickened. I knew I shouldn't, but I looked for the key. I found it in his jacket pocket while he showered. Inside the drawer were folders, labeled ones. One read Communications, another Public Record, another Defamation. My chest tightened. Inside each were printouts of comments, screenshots, even the first video post. He'd documented everything. I shut the drawer quickly, heart hammering, and put the key back. When he came out, towel over his shoulder, I was sitting on the couch pretending to read. He asked if I was okay. I said yes. He nodded, looked at me longer than usual, and said softly, "I think we've both done enough pretending." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that drawer, those folders, the word defamation burned behind my eyelids. Around midnight, I got up to check my phone. Another notification. Someone had uploaded a new compilation titled The Confession Wife, Part 2. It had nearly 50,000 views. I wanted to scream. Instead, I typed a long post defending myself. How I was being judged unfairly. How people didn't know the full story. How honesty shouldn't ruin a person's life. I hit post and went back to bed. For a few minutes, I felt powerful again. By morning, it had over 1,000 comments, almost all mocking me. One said, "Still blaming everyone else?" Another said, "Your husband deserves a medal for staying this long." I deleted the post, but it was too late. Screenshots were already everywhere. Noah was in the kitchen, calm, sipping coffee. I told him people were attacking me, that I couldn't live like this. He said, "It's strange, isn't it? The truth always finds a stage." I told him to stop speaking in riddles, that I needed him to take my side. He looked up from his cup and said, "I don't have a side anymore. I have boundaries." I snapped, said he sounded like a lawyer. He said, "I learned from the best. Reality." Then he stood, carried his cup to the sink and turned to me. His voice was low, steady. "Elara, I'm not going to argue. You've made your choices. I'll handle this properly." That phrase again, colder this time. I laughed, pretending not to be scared, and said, "What are you going to do, Sumi?" He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You'll find out soon enough." He left without another word. The sound of the door closing echoed through the quiet house. I stared at it, frozen, trying to decide if I should be angry or terrified. I poured myself coffee I didn't drink and sat at the table until Grace came downstairs, asking where Daddy went. I said work, even though I wasn't sure anymore. When she left for school, I walked into his office again. The printer light was blinking. A few fresh pages lay in the tray. I turned one over. Legal text, dense and formal, but I recognized the phrase public defamation and reputational harm. My breath caught. I dropped the page back where it was, hands trembling. That evening, Noah came home late. He didn't say a word, just nodded when I said hello and went straight to the guest room. I stood outside the door for a long time, listening. Papers shuffled, a zipper closed, then silence. I thought about knocking, apologizing, begging him to stop whatever this was becoming, but I couldn't move. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, the reflection of my own face looking smaller, weaker, almost unrecognizable. The low hum of the printer starts again behind the closed door, followed by a single final click as the tray empties. The next morning, I went to the office, determined to act normal. But when I stepped into the lobby, a man in a dark suit was waiting. He asked my name, handed me an envelope, and said I'd been served. My hands shook as I opened it. Civil complaint for defamation and invasion of privacy. My own words printed as evidence. Coworkers stared as I froze, every laugh from that night echoing in my head. Through the glass doors, Noah stood outside, watching quietly. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. The truth had finally become his witness. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.